Hello friends, Anderson here. Welcome back to Kilt and Rats Plays Ironsworn Chapter 2, Episode 15, where we rejoin Kynan in company of a couple of Gnarls, a lot of Varu, and a Varu seer named Efka, whose acquaintance we've made in the previous episode. Things seem to be looking up for once. We have a host of our own now to lead against Arsula. We still have a delve side to traverse that is still somewhat risky and dangerous, but we also have a positive turn of events to resolve before we do any of that, and we have probably reached a couple of milestones, so let's get to that, let's dive on in, and let's figure it all out. First things first, the Varu revelations and the ability now of Kynan to resist this disease that was afflicting him or starting to affect him. For me, that qualifies as milestones on both of our immediate vows. So finding Asha, keeping her safe, / removing the trouble from Redcrest, both of those go up by some additional progress. And since it's a dangerous vow, we do make 2 progress each. Now, last time we ended on a location that we came across with a positive match again. This better stop at some point. And that was an aspect of the history or nature of this place is revealed that somehow helps us. And then we now need to kind of resolve what that place is first and foremost. I don't know whether we are still in the wild part or the corrupted part, so I'm going to roll a die 6 alongside our percentage die, and if it's a 1 to 3, we're still in the wild part. If it's 4 to 6, we have moved into the corrupted area, and we'll roll on the corrupted tables from now on. It is a 0-5 on the corrupted table, which is a strange environmental disturbance, or rather it's strange environmental disturbances, and that's somehow a positive thing. So I think we are due another action and theme oracle here, or maybe we are going for the delve ones. Let's have a quick look. I think aspect and focus might be more fitting, so let's do that. 75 broken, 11 passage, broken passage, and environmental disturbances, and that is somehow helpful. We're at 6 progress, so I don't think we are there yet. We're particularly close yet, because I thought maybe it's a passage cracked open somehow already into the underground barrow of Arsula's imprisonment, sort of like a back way in. But I don't think it's that, and I don't know really how that would tangle with the environmental disturbances anyway. Broken passage, environmental disturbances. I'm struggling a bit, but I have a roundabout weird idea how to figure this out, which is to kind of turn the mystic backlash oracles on their head and make it so that we come upon strange environmental disturbances in the form of, as we're now drawing closer to Arsula's prison and the corrupted Varu are under his sway and have been for some time, they've erected some mystical defenses of their own, since they expect the rest of their tribe to come here. And I want to do, well, I basically want to use Efka here as our Deus Ex, who will break these defenses, these strange environmental disturbances, this like ritual at work that is wavering through the trees and making passage. Maybe there's like some kind of choking mist that we now have to cross. And Efka has the power to nullify this. And I'm just gonna roll a mystic backlash and turn the result into the positive opposite. That is then the positive effect of the match, of the positive match. So I'm gonna roll a mystic backlash, but this is more like mystic benefit in this case. 87. Your ritual causes creatures to exhibit strange or aggressive behavior. So it has the opposite effect, which means that by invoking his ritual, her ritual rather, Efka calms the host of Varu and manages to suppress this influence of the corruption and of Arsula, and that gives us some additional protection against this permeating disease that's coming, or this affliction of aggression. So basically we're getting some mental armor out of this. So as the host draws upon this boundary that the mystic, the corrupted mystic on the other side of the Varu has cast forth, this wavering, oily, black sheen that is hanging between the trees, and as Efka starts chanting and singing and raising her staff, and this light shining forth and dispelling a corridor of hopefulness into this gloom, the calming effect also washes over Kynan. Even though he's no longer afflicted, he has his warding tattoo now, but the war-painted Varu, all of whom have etched themselves, like painted themselves with these runic markings, they visibly relax as well. And as the procession continues through that corridor and this oily mist just dissipates, and they follow the radiant light that Efka shines into the murk, the spirits are lifted visibly. The subdued and worried subtext that had entered as soon as they entered this corrupted part of the forest that they're in now is gone, and some of the Varu are even picking up on that song that Efka was chanting, and they are humming it for a while as they keep walking. So there's a spirit of hopefulness that carries over into the next encounters. So maybe depending on what it is, it gives us some kind of +1 bonus somewhere or something. Doesn't always have to be like a major plot twist or revelation, because we've had too many of those. So we delve on, and we are delving with edge. And we have another strong hit here. So that gives us an opportunity. We can take +1. I think we're taking momentum out of this. +1 to the roll is nice, but we also need some momentum to account for. And we need to roll to find an opportunity. And we mark another progress, putting us up to 7. Opportunity 22. The terrain favors you, or you find a hidden path. Now this could probably help us just in terms of we're drawing closer now, and we're able to bypass through a hidden path that the Varu scouts that we're sending out periodically are finding and are aware of course, since this has been their territory for a while. We're able to bypass some of the pockets of corrupted Varu that are now going to be out here and around us. So we're consciously avoiding some combat encounter. We're making positive progress, and we're doing so through a pocket of walkways that the Varu scouts lay out for us, where the gnarls probably have some trouble following and have to stoop very low as they lead us through some hollows between the trees. And we're hearing the howling close by of this other faction of Varu, of the Get of Ratka, the corrupted ones, but we're able to avoid them. And these maddened howls are a portent that Kynan does not appreciate too much, because it's infused with a level of insane rage and anger that also reflects back on him what he could have become, potentially. Yeah, I think that's good enough for that result. Let us delve further. That is a weak hit. We roll on the Delver Depth table to find out what awaits us. We're doing it with edge, so let us see. 98, mark progress twice and reveal a danger. Okay, this could very well now be us running into the defenses, because the progress shows that we are pretty much there. We can locate our objective, but we're revealing a danger first, so we might just run into the perimeter defenses. Let's figure out what the danger is. 54. You encounter a hostile denizen. I think one hostile denizen would be in a pretty horrible position coming up against this army, depending on what it is, but maybe we encounter an appropriate group size of denizens. Maybe we are running up on the core of the defenders that are on the outside now. It's like an encampment around the barrow or something. And I think since this is also pretty much our objective is near, I'm gonna make the assumption that we're on the outside of the barrow of the pillar-topped prison of Arsula and not determine the location. But we're gonna determine the kind of denizen that is surrounding. It might be another gloom again that we have to cross through, and that would help, that the positive effect from previously would generally help there as well. It is a 50, it is Varu, so it is the showdown of the two halves of the tribe now, of the Get of Ratka. The forest area that the host of Kynan and Efka has marched through for the last hours, maybe even day, has been in pretty much perpetual darkness since they crossed into the corrupted area, where there's just a pall of murk constantly hanging over, blocking out every light, even during the daytime. So Kynan has a hard time telling what time of day it is. When scouts return, have a quick conversation with Efka, and then the host is suddenly a lot more alert after Efka sort of half shouts, half whispers her commands. And Kynan already has an inkling of what Efka is about to tell him, because he hears those howls, those keening cries of maddened rage in the distance, and the distance is not far anymore. It's been almost a constant background sound for quite some time that they have traversed here now, but this sounds like it's almost within shooting reach of Kynan had he a clear field of fire instead of this mess of trees in front of and surround him. And Efka confirms it.
Our journey is about to come to an end, but alas, we will not receive free passage and a warm welcome from the brethren that are sharing Arsula's company.
How many? About as many as we have. Good question. Likely that it's an even match, I think. But we also have the Gnarls to consider, who definitely tilt things in our favor. So let's call it 50-50, that we're evenly matched, and that the amount of Varu that are on the other side are a bit more, and that we compensate for this through the Gnarls. And if we're 50 or below, we are outweighing them, we are outmatching them. We have more power. 52 is an even match, so what is it really then? We want to get in there. We have a whole bunch of following with us now. We have probably already been marked by the residents there. So the question is, what are they about to do? I assume that they have taken on defensive positions around this Barrow Hill, around this corrupted pillar, but they're also raving and insane and angered, so I don't know. Maybe we check in with the combat action oracle to give us a clue on how this host of maddened Varu acts as an entity. That is a 95 attack with power. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So before Kynan even has a lot of time to consider what the implication of this news is and how to go about it tactically, there is already a rustling around and the howls are drawing a lot closer. They're not making a lot of effort to conceal themselves. It's just a fairly, even almost uncoordinated attack of this host that had gathered around the barrow, now just falling on this column that is still following the path now that their hidden path led them into. So we're still stuck between the trees. There is not great fields of fire, and it'll just be a messy, almost one-to-one battle. I'm not really seeing the potential for a scene challenge here, since there's no real countdown that immediately jump out at me as a consequence of what could happen next, besides like, okay, there's more in there and then an overwhelming force will reach us and force a surrender. I don't think that's really gonna work though. I think I'm gonna just do a regular combat, and given the amount of combatants and the amount of potential things that can go wrong here, I think we'll make it a formidable combat encounter where we just have like two hosts collide and our combat actions are more of a reflection of individual clashes, and we'll scale it to formidable just to reflect the amount of allies and enemies we have, which is in the dozens here. So it'll be a nightmarish struggle in darkness where there's not a lot of room to maneuver, and again for Kynan as well, there's not a lot of room to shoot, so he's ripping his sword out, bracing himself as the Varu from around him form up more like a wedge, some also leaping, hanging from tree trunks to get a better view and to get some like perches to jump on the enemy that comes forth, but the enemy have the same idea, so as Kynan sees the first onrushing black shapes with glowing eyes come towards him, he also sees movement overhead as Varu are just jumping from tree to tree and leaping forward, just digging their claws in, and immediately it becomes a mess as enemies just jump into the middle, and the allies are also leaping over the first row of onrushing maddened Varu and just fall on the back rows. So it immediately becomes a complete mess of confusion, and Kynan really just has two things on his mind. He wants to stick close to Efka and sort of serve, because he doesn't know the combat prowess of the seer and feels like he should probably protect her, and he just wants to keep his back somehow to something friendly. So let's enter the fray. I think this is probably a heart entering the fray because we're just facing off in all sorts of directions. Let's call it the Battle of the Woods, the formidable one. And let's go on in. I think that's a weak hit, which given the situation is probably the most likely outcome, considering there is almost no way to really control this situation. Weak hit is either we take the initiative or we take 2 momentum. Following the fiction a bit, I'm rather taking the momentum and reflecting the chaotic first engagement and then clashing with the first Varu that leaps from a tree trunk, just claws out and trying to just rip Kynan apart. So we're clashing with iron, which we are good at. Honestly, considering where the fiction keeps leading, I really regret making him an archer. Okay. So weak hit. Inflict your harm, but then pay the price. So we do inflict 1 harm, and we pay the price, meaning, well, let's just go with the most obvious outcome, which is that Kynan vastly underestimated the strength of the attacker, and while he manages to strike a blow, the oncoming attack is barely affected by it, and he just gets raked across the torso by this set of fearsome claws. That'd be 3 harm? Suddenly regret this whole formidable decision. But maybe we can win some back. So we endure harm. We roll plus iron because it's higher, and we see what it gets us. It gets us a strong hit, meaning we can get 1 health back, I think, as we shake it off, and Kynan, well, 1 momentum down, not up. And Kynan rallies immediately, taking the measure of the foe now, feeling that searing pain, especially as a sort of a sore spot at the moment anyway. But he brings up the sword again and tries to ready himself for another attack. Is it face danger or clash again? I think just because it comes with the potential to also do damage, I just prefer clash, especially since our iron is pretty good. So let's clash again. Hey! Well, it's been a while since we had a positive match, so there's another one. On a strong hit, inflict your harm and choose 1. Either take plus momentum or inflict 1 harm, I choose to inflict 1 more harm, putting us up to 3, and reflect that by the next time the Varu comes forward and tries to get both clawed hands on Kynan's shoulders again. He just rams the sword right through its throat, and the Varu just slumps and drops and kind of rips the sword out and has some kind of positive outcome from it now. We may ask the Oracle, action and theme. 25, eliminate. Yes, I would like eliminate. And theme. 65, dream again. Eliminate dream as a positive outcome of this combat encounter. I'll take 1 spirit, because Kynan is in the thick of it again, and he's shaking off all these last remaining residual strains that were put on him by his encounter with Kaladas and by all of this gloom encounter that he has. So I'm just gonna take 1 spirit back, and I have the initiative now, which means we can strike or secure an advantage. I'm not sure how we can necessarily, because I think secure an advantage here tactically and whatnot, we could try some things, but I don't think they're necessarily listening to us. I mean, the Varu are primed to listen to Efka, so Kynan is sort of the stranger here fighting the battle alongside a host that is used to fighting in their own style together, so I don't think there's much potential for securing an advantage on the tactical side. I think we're just gonna strike and run up to the next enemy. Maybe we see an enemy coming forward towards Efka, who has her staff raised and assumes sort of a defensive crouch, ready to evade. And Kynan bull rushes forward and goes on a leap to intercept the rushing attacker and tries to strike them down. I sense a certain amount of ridiculousness. Positive match. So we inflict 1 additional harm because we have a strong hit on the strike. We retain the initiative and we have something happen again. What is it this time? 0-2, clash. 45, danger. The fiction would kind of tell me that Kynan strikes down the onrushing opponent in 1 precise cut and therefore does some additional harm, but I kind of don't want to give myself additional damage here, so I'm gonna give myself additional momentum. So we'll get 1 momentum out of this as Kynan soars through the victory of striking down yet another opponent, clearing the coast for Efka for the moment, who acknowledges it briefly and then spins around immediately to face an onrushing danger from another direction, and Kynan does the same. So seeing where Efka is applying herself, just a front of Varu, now a knot of Varu tearing at each other, and Efka wading into the thick of it and laying about with her stave. Kynan sort of curses under his breath at this mad woman and just follows suit, leaping in there and just laying about. That's a weak hit on our strike. We do our harm and we lose the initiative, so that is what Kynan gets for throwing himself into the thick of battle. He does strike down 1 opponent and immediately finds himself confronted with 3 more. And as the sword comes out of the dying form in front of him on the ground and he lifts his eyes again, he sees like 3 others coming towards him and starts backing up. And we clash. Another weak hit, we inflict our harm and we pay the price. Now, do we automatically drop the health down to 0, lose some momentum, or do we have another price we could pay here? Not really seeing another real option looking at the table, so we're just going to eat another blow. Maybe we can soften it up a little bit by enduring harm. Nope, that's just the weak hit. We press on and we are once again gravely wounded physically this time. No big surprise as we're basically trying to beat up a bunch of werewolves with our kitchen knife here. We've lost the initiative again, though we're going to have to... Well, I think it's time to rally or to try and end the fight. So either face danger or we trust in our 7 progress and try and... I don't know, fictionally speaking, we're on the back foot here, so we also have a lot of allies. No, I think we can't end the fight if we don't have the initiative, so we need to try and get it back. And I think we're gonna face danger, and we're doing it with edge as Kynan tries to avoid the encounter with those 3 raging monstrosities coming towards him, but also tries to draw him away from FK. So he's playing it quite nimbly. Actually, that's a feint more than anything. Like, he tries to draw them out in a way we're doing it with Shadow. Since every now and again we should play to our strengths. So let's do that. Good thing we did that with Shadow. Strong hit, take 1 momentum. We have the initiative. Now what? 6 and below is a success for ending the fight. I mean, as an avid XCOM player, this might as well be just a 10% chance. I think I want to strike 1 more time just to raise the chances that we have for successfully ending this fight. So let's say Kynan drew them out and he draws them into the vicinity of the gnarl with this like bramble beard flying, spinning around with surprising speed for these rigid creatures, and this wooden arm shooting out and just sweeping at those 3 on leaping wolven humanoids as Kynan ducks under and hopes that when he raises his eyes they'll just be obliterated. So let's see about that. I think they are dead. Yes, that is a strong hit. Which means we bump our overall progress up to a level where it is now time to end the fight. So as the 3 wolf people are crushed and flying in the other direction that they were leaping from, we're making our progress move, which means that everything that isn't a 9 or a 10 is a success. On a miss, you have lost the fight. Pay the price. How? How did we lose this? Well, I guess we'll find out. I think we're going to roll on the pay the price table just to make this interesting and see what the hell happens here. Because I have no clue. 82. A surprising development complicates your quest. Major plot twist. 43. You and an enemy share a common goal? How on earth? Well, the only enemy isn't Arsula. The Varu are also the enemy, and they probably don't like this very much, so it's not immediately obvious to me how this fits in, so I need to think about this, and I think we're also at a decent point to end it for today, so I'm gonna have some time to consider this and hopefully come up with something. So thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time, and bye for now.